Caro, you're in the middle of a storm. Usually you're putting the questions to me in these sort of situations. But tell me what it's been like for you the last couple of days and have you seen this play out?
Look, well, certainly it started a major conversation. I'm not backing away from it when I say I think a lot of people were having the conversation anyway. Clearly, it reached my ears last week. I brought it up last week on radio. I knew St Kilda people were unhappy. I asked the question because I myself was surprised when I heard that they were struggling to field a team, that they didn't even have enough emergencies at one point. Seb Ross has put out a statement, which we're going to have a look at in a minute, but I just want to reiterate, and I've heard what Mark Robinson said, it was a legitimate story. And yes, I did have an opinion that St Kilda fans had a right to be disappointed. Now, I'm standing by that opinion. People can say they're staggered and shocked. I think the pile-on has been pretty shocking, to be honest, and some of it's been personal. Welcome to your world.
Yeah, but no, what I was just saying, but people...
welcome to your world.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time, and
people will be trying to square up,
and luckily I'm not on social media. I mean, I think there's some of the people who spoke in that clip we just showed are hypocrites, to be honest. And, even the Players Association are reacting again. It's a pity they weren't stronger.
Hold that thought. We're going to come back and discuss what can be played out from this. Let's get a resolution, not just another fight. So let's move from that. Let's have a look at what Seb Ross had to say tonight on Instagram, a lengthy Instagram. When we were told we'd be staying in Sydney longer than originally planned, I'd made the decision to go home and support my wife and our 3 children with the intention and hope that I would apply for a border exemption and return in time to face Adelaide. When the team was eventually granted a fly-in, fly-out exemption to Queensland the Thursday before the game, my chances of joining them faded. The next page says, although I was torn between my club obligations and my family obligations, it was a risk I was willing to take. I knew I needed to be at home to help my wife Marnie and our 5-week-old twin boys, Vinny and Henley, and daughter Charlotte. This was never to be about me not honouring my commitment to the St Kilda Football Club, the club that I'm committed to and I am proud to represent. This was simply my supporting what I cherish most, my family. And he goes on to thank the St Kilda fans and people who have supported him and says he'll be right to play against the Tigers.
I just want to make one small point. Yeah. A lot of people have said, how dare I speak on behalf of the family? Now, I have enormous sympathy for any young mother. I know about that better than anyone because I'm the one person here who has been a young mother with young children. But I wouldn't have said it if I hadn't spoken to people at the club. And I don't think those St Kilda teammates who asked Seb to stay did so without knowing his situation. I just leave it at that.
So the other point to that is it a disgrace that people at St Kilda were talking to you behind these guys' backs? Where did the fracture happen, Ross? What do you think?
Well, I've got a view on it. I've got a slightly different view. I think this was a January-February problem. When you're a serious footy club and you're on top of the game, you know we've come off COVID. We know the issues out of the hub. Seb Ross's wife was clearly pregnant. This birth was... So the bridges and support should have been put in place. So then it's future setting. So then when you come across it, you're not derailed. He doesn't think I have to go home for support because there's been relationships established, support, clear, get the resources, get it established in February and build it along. And then when this challenge comes, he's not thinking... Because if you go to him a week out, well, my wife doesn't know them. You don't know what she needs. I think it could have been circumvented with strong forward planning. And that's, to me, the AFLPA are reactionary. They know this was an issue last year. This is happening often. What support and how are they integrating with clubs and aligning their resources? I think they get millions and millions of dollars. What have they allocated to players' partners in the context of COVID and being left behind? What support? And are they ringing clubs and saying, this is what's happening, how can we help? If I was coaching, that's what you'd be doing in January, February. What can derail us? Because it happened last year with Carlisle. Get ahead of the problem, and then Seb Ross doesn't have to make a decision. It's already made and he feels comfortable.
What do you think? You're about to go on about the AFLPA, Caro, before I get
no, look, I just, I've been critical of them for being reactionary because when the Adelaide camp happened, and I know players were traumatised by what happened there, they did a perfunctory investigation and found nothing. Now, I just wish they had been as diligent then, and with a few other things that have happened in footy, as they seem to have been in jumping on me now.
Karen, what do you say, though, to the people who say you lacked empathy? and that your views were archaic with the way you spoke.
I don't think they're archaic, Matthew. I mean, we all have to make tough decisions. I didn't smash the family. I didn't smash Seb Ross. I simply said I was surprised, and people at the club and supporters had a right to be disappointed. I can tell you, I knew they were disappointed, and I thought they had a right to, and I don't think it is archaic. I've spoken to people a lot younger and a lot of people in footy a lot younger than me who completely agree with what I said. It doesn't mean I'm not owning what I'm saying, but I do believe it. And, I mean, you would never have done this and you were different. You had a different situation. I think this football club has some issues, wider issues, by the way, and this is symbolic of those issues.
Well, Matt Finnis came out on radio and said he was disappointed but understanding.
Yeah, because you can never put... I understand. You can just never put yourself in other people's shoes, though, that's all.
No, we can't.
Seb Ross had missed one game in 6 years, so it was obviously a massive decision.
Well, this was his second one because he missed the birth
game,
as well, fair enough, and I get that. But I'm telling you, teammates knew his situation a lot better than I do, and yet felt the need to plead with him to stay.
So let's have a listen to, you mentioned Matt Finnis, the CEO of the St Kilda Football Club. Here's what he had to say on SEN today.
You can be disappointed, but you can be understanding. I don't think emotions are mutually exclusive. As a CEO, I'd love to have our best players on the park. I do that every week. But as a father, I also understand that we've got to prioritise what we know is important within our own families. And no one can know that except for the families themselves. And I just feel like sometimes we can have a lack of empathy about that in the way in which these things are discussed.
And there's no blanket decision on these things. That's what I'm saying. There's no answer. There's debate, and surely we're allowed to have a debate and a discussion on it. I just want to quote a friend of mine, an anonymous friend of mine, who is one of the most organised. He's a medical doctor by profession, and you couldn't find somebody more stable and more situated to be able to come up with a crisis like this, and his wife as well. And he said, and he's the father of twins, he said, there's a bunch of things with multiple births. They're invariably somewhat premature. They often have breastfeeding issues. Even full-time help is 35 hours in a 168-hour, never-ending week. He's not just at work for 40 hours, he's away for 168 hours. And then add the spectre of postnatal depression. You've got a toddler, all those type of things. And just said, look, throw in lockdowns, and it makes it harder and harder.
We're speculating.
No, we're balancing things out. We're
St
just
Kilda
saying...
said to Seb Ross, can you just give us one more week?
Yeah.
And he wasn't prepared to do that. And look, I'm not crucifying him. I'm just asking a legitimate question. What Matt Finnis also said today on the Gerard Whateley program was that, well, I think he's talked about a review, or certainly a sharpening of the focus. A month ago, I think the footy boss Simon Lethlean and Matt Finnis went to the board and said we need to review the way things are being done around this club. Now, they probably deny that this is symbolic of that, this lack of commitment and lack of good preparation. But there are bigger issues at St Kilda, and I think it'll be interesting to watch how they play out.
Well, my understanding is that there might be a review of the reviewers at the moment. There were some big St Kilda names who were on the phone over the weekend, just desperately unhappy with what happened long before this story came to the surface. So,
well, I think strong football clubs...
The reviewers being Matt Finnis and Simon Lethlean.
Well, I think there's some big people having a look at the whole length and breadth of the club at the moment.
Well, when clubs are in good shape, you don't get to the review. The standards you walk past, standards you accept. You're addressing the issues as you see them. And that's why I like this conversation. As uncomfortable as it is, it's still worth the conversation. So mine to St Kilda, can you set a hand on heart and say you got the Seb Ross months out and put all the support around him so he wasn't in this situation? I'm not sure they could answer that. So they got a bit at their end. But you want to address it on the run. Same as Carlton Football Club. No use getting an external consultant to come in, because if you need external consultants to come in and review you got the wrong people.
Hey, Ross, are you shocked with how quick this has turned? A side that won the final last year. That was a great story, St Kilda, yet we're sitting here right now.
Well, I think they got a natural uplift on the back of Richardson leaving, and Ratton can really coach, and that's what I felt. I thought he was the right man for the job. I still didn't think they were as strong as I thought the Doggies dominated that final, bar handling Ryder and Marshall. So I think it was a bit of a false storm for them, and they don't run that deep, and they've had injuries, and maybe the preparation waned and a bit of overconfidence, and you blink and you're in trouble.